Hi and welcome to the Kind Community Sustainability Podcast. I'm your host, Giannavelli, and on the show we uncover the stories, tactics and skills of people doing great things for the planet and turn their experiences into practical advice that you can use to impact your own life and those around you. This week on the show we've got Deanna Cook from LIYA Collective. I enjoyed hearing her story and I'm sure you will too. Deanna, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Good stuff. I've been looking forward to having a sit-down chat with you and hearing about your story. So without further ado, just tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So my name's Deanna Cook. I'm originally from just outside of Toronto, Canada. And I had always been interested in social justice, impact, sustainability. And when I went to university, I chose to study international business and international development, which really kind of exposed me to both the business corporate world, but also the innovations going on in the world of sustainability. I also had the opportunity to study abroad in Spain when I was in university, which was an incredible experience and just kind of gave me that travel bug. So when I graduated, I moved to Taiwan and I ended up teaching English there for a few years. Now I was really passionate about education, but I knew that long term I wanted to move more into a support role as opposed to being at the front of the classroom. So I ended up picking up and moving. I moved to Tanzania, East Africa. So in Tanzania, I lived there for 2 years. I worked with a small NGO, nonprofit. Its partner program, primary school. Worked with lots of local businesses in the community. And I primarily did marketing and fundraising, but it was a really great introduction to kind of grassroots organizing and what sustainability looks like on the ground. While I was in Tanzania, I had a wonderful opportunity to move to Bangkok. So I went to Bangkok in Thailand. I worked on an international development project. It was a big USAID project there in education and employability. So the project was connecting the Lower Mekong region through education and training. Basically, how can we innovate and create programs, sustainable initiatives that bridge the gap between education and employment for STEM graduates in that area of the world. And when I was in Bangkok, I also started building my freelance business. So I had been consulting and working with different clients in the sustainability space, different nonprofits, social enterprises, sustainable businesses, primarily helping them with digital marketing and communication strategies that can grow their online presence and amplify the impact they're making. So that carries me over to today. I'm currently talking to you from Costa Rica, where I'm working remotely, I'm freelancing, and I'm also building my new business, LIYA Collective.
Is travel in your DNA? Like what?
I didn't do extensive international travel as a child, but I remember seeing a quote when I was growing up. I can't remember the exact quote word for word, but it was, I always see a bird and wonder if they have wings, why don't they fly anywhere in the world? And then I asked myself the same question. So it was along that vein, and it just really resonated with me. If I am young, if I have the privilege to make these choices, if I'm able to make it work, why wouldn't I see the world, learn, have these transformative experiences, build relationships internationally, create impact where I can. It's really just been, something that I've been passionate about as long as I can remember and kind of feel like I need to do.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm jealous. So tell me a bit about Costa Rica then. How long have you been there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in Playas del Coco, Costa Rica. So it's a small town in the northwest part of the country, close to Nicaragua. I moved to Costa Rica because my partner, who is a teacher, got a job working at an international school. And fortunately, I am running a business that I can do remotely for now. So I'm doing my freelance business, working with sustainable businesses, nonprofits on their marketing and communications. And I'm also building LIYA Collective. So LIYA Collective is a product-based business. It's a collection of minimalist accessories for the modern woman. And when it gets to the stage that we're ready to launch, I will need to have a bit more of a home base, because as a product-based business, obviously I'm dealing with inventory. But right now we're pre-launch stage, so that's easy for me to do from wherever in the world. Now, LIYA Collective kind of developed parallel to what all the other work I was doing. I was really interested in exploring how business can be used as a tool to create change, how we, or I, as a Westerner, a foreigner, can collaborate and learn from the communities in which I was living and amplify the products they're already making, the traditional skill sets they have, the efforts they're already taking to be more sustainable. So when I was in Thailand, I partnered with a series of small family-owned businesses, and we're working on creating our first collection of ethically made, sustainable, organic silk scarves. So it's really been a journey. How can we disrupt the fashion industry as it currently stands? How can we partner through trade, through globalization, create products made of natural materials with sustainable processes that don't hurt the earth, and tell a story doing it?
What brought you to be working with this area of business when you could be essentially applying your skill set to financial industries, or insurance, for example?
I have always felt the need to work in something that I feel creates impact, that I feel fulfills me. When I was growing up, I always thought that I wanted to be a human rights lawyer. I thought that would be the best way for me to make a difference in the world. After an internship at a law firm, I decided that maybe I could explore other paths. Maybe it wasn't going to be the best fit for me. Then I decided I wanted to work purely in the nonprofit sector. And I had had lots of experience working with nonprofits now, and I still love working with them. But what really fires me up right now, what I'm really excited about, is social enterprise. So could be nonprofit or for-profit businesses, but basically, operating with business models, with business principles, but doing so in a way that puts sustainability first. It puts it at the core of the operations, the core of everything we're doing. So it's never really been a question for me. I never felt called to work in finance or insurance. Not that there's anything wrong with those careers, and some people excel in them and love them, but it just wasn't my path. I've always, felt drawn towards this space.
Amazing. So could you tell us a little bit more about social enterprise, what you've got involved with, and how LIYA Collective puts sustainability at its forefront?
Yeah. There are a couple ways we're trying to do that. So sustainability and social impact can mean different things to different people. And I think it depends on your personal experiences, what your priorities are, what your values are. And so one example of a sustainable business could be a vegan product. Now, LIYA Collective is not making vegan products. Another example could be locally made. So it's a Canadian employing other local Canadians and producing made in Canada. That's not what we're doing either. There are different ways to be sustainable, and there are different models you can follow. So what we're doing with LIYA, we are partnering with these businesses in the community. So when I was working in Thailand, I learned everything I could about Thai silk, about the industry, about how it employs thousands of women and people across communities, especially in rural areas, and how it has for millennia. I learned about the traditional methods of making it, about the natural dye process, about the textiles and its uses. I learned about factories and certifications and processes. And so I'm trying to partner with local businesses in a way that pays a fair price for their goods, creates economic opportunity for artisans and employees working in Thailand, is made of natural materials with no synthetics or anything else added. And I would like to be, since we are a global business and we do have to deal with the carbon emissions associated with transportation and shipping, I would like to get to a place where we're offsetting that, and we're carbon neutral. We are creating products that last the test of time, that have the smallest impact on the environment possible, and that treat the workers who make them fairly and well. I would love to explore to other countries. As I said, I was in Thailand, so working side by side with the makers there, and that's our first collection, but I'd love to expand to other countries in the future, perhaps some of the other places I've worked around the world or somewhere new. But just, I think for me, it's about doing it slowly. I don't feel the need to rush into anything. I'd rather do it slowly and do it right.
Tell us a bit more about some of the sustainable methods you saw in Thailand. Could you help describe them, as it were?
So when we talk about sustainability in the Western world, it's often framed in terms of capitalism. What are businesses doing to be sustainable? What can we buy as consumers that's the most sustainable product? But if you look back through history, many cultures, many communities have always operated in sustainable ways, especially outside the West. So in Thailand, the silk industry, it's always been very cyclical. Farmers would grow mulberry on their farms, which the silkworms then feed on from. They take the silkworms, they turn into cocoons, and then they take the filament from the silkworm and create thread fibers from it, silk fibers. They then take those fibers and weave them on traditional, wooden looms, often in rural areas, into textiles, which the textiles can be dyed before or after they've been woven. Traditionally, it's been done with natural dyes, and only more recently, in the past couple of decades, they've introduced synthetic or chemical dyes. So many cultures around the world, have always operated in sustainable ways, and it's just with the invention of modern technology and the Industrial Revolution and innovation that things have become less sustainable. But it's just when we learn about the history of it and go back to the roots of the tradition of the skill sets, the sustainability has been built in from the beginning. It's just about getting back to that and learning about it.
Yeah. So what does sustainability mean to you?
It can mean different things to different people. So for me, sustainability is about living our lives, your personal life, your public life, and operating our businesses, being in the public professional sphere in ways that can last. Not just today, not just tomorrow, but for generations to come, past the end of our lifetime. So in ways that have a neutral or positive impact on the world, as opposed to the negative impact that so many of our industries do these days. So it's about reevaluating the processes, the habits that we have right now, and both coming up with new ways to do things as well as going back to some of the old ways that things had been done in the past.
Could you share a little bit about how LIYA is making sure that the products that you're sourcing for LIYA are sustainable?
I think this is a tricky question for many businesses because greenwashing is so prevalent. So what I mean by that, you see so many companies that make these big sustainability claims without kind of the evidence or anything to back it up, because they see that's the direction that a lot of consumers are moving. So it's easy to say you're being more sustainable than you really are. Some of the ways to counteract that are to partner with third parties or certification bodies like Fair Trade Federation or Ecotex or the Global Organic Textile Standard. So third party audit and independently verify your processes. That being said, I recognize that it's not possible to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a third-party auditor for some small businesses. And just because a small business doesn't have the money to get that kind of certification, if we're talking about an artisan workshop in a rural area with 10 employees, they likely don't have the means to pay for these third-party auditors, but that doesn't always mean that they're not operating sustainably. So for me, if I'm working with smaller businesses that don't have these certifications, it's about seeing it firsthand, building personal relationships, asking questions, and then being transparent with the consumers. If my suppliers don't have organic certified silk because they are too small of a business to afford the GOTS certification, then I need to be careful with my wording that I don't imply to consumers that it is certified. But I can communicate that here's where the business is, here is their successes, here are their challenges, here's what we're doing to work forward. So I think transparency is key. There's no such thing as perfectly sustainable. There's always somewhere we can improve. But if we're being open and honest and transparent, then at least consumers can make a decision about what they want to support with their dollars, what they want to vote for with their money, and what they connect with and businesses that they want to buy from.
I think that's so true. I think the transparency is key here, and that consumers are asking more. They're asking questions about where are their products coming from, and I see it quite a bit with certain brands and products that I've come across that perhaps not hide, but don't disclose certain things. And you're so true in the fact that generally the small farmers and the artisanal manufacturers can't afford these certifications, and could say that they have actually been imposed to support the commercialization of the
definitely
product. So it's an interesting one, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you're able to get that through. I think it would be great if you could share at what point you are within your business, and what can listeners do to help support you.
For sure. So right now we have developed the samples with our Thai partners. We are pretty ready to go in terms of product development. We are working on kind of the marketing pre-launch phase side of things. So just getting the word out there. We still on the list have the photo shoot to do. Something I'm really working on right now is this packaging, and that is a web of that's complicated. There are pros and cons to different types of packaging, to everything in the sustainable packaging world. And that's a big challenge for e-commerce businesses. So I'm working on that right now and just getting everything ready to go before our spring 2020 launch. So I'd love to connect with anyone who's interested in this pre-launch phase. We have a lot of exciting things going on where we're building our audience. Right now, actually, we're doing an initiative where we're planting a tree for every new email subscriber we have. So just different fun things with the community before our products are actually ready to go. And it's also something that, because we're pre-launch and because it's a small business, I really value the feedback and the opinion of the community, of my audience. So I've worked with my audience, polls and surveys, and really trying to embody human-centered design thinking principles to ask what people are interested in, what resonates with the audience, what areas do people feel passionate about, and what do people want to learn more about. So just trying to make it a really integrative space so people can check us out and get involved with the community.
What I'll do is in the show notes put a link out to the website so people can connect with you and your social channels. And I appreciate you being open about where you are right now. I think it's good, and seeking that advice from potential customers is valuable. I'm sure you'll get some good feedback on where to go. And as you say, one of those things you said about packaging, it can be a minefield. And I wish you all the best in navigating that. I, for one, with my brand, definitely had to question what route we go down to not also put our product at a price point that put us out of the market, because what is unsustainable is producing products that people can't actually afford. So one of my missions is to make the sustainable attainable. And I think with the move towards more and more businesses and brands and consumers looking for sustainable products, that will bring down the cost or make it slightly more accessible to everyone. And that's where I'm trying to make headway in. And I think after this, I'll try and link you a few manufacturers that I've found on the, say, plant-based plastic, biodegradable,
bioplastics, yeah,
like biodegradable mailing bags, which are quite exciting. So that might be something that I can help you discover.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I always love learning more about, there's always more to learn.
Yeah, that's right. One of my other principles I talk about in my talks, actually, sorry to talk about myself so much, but I always say about be a student of life for life. So never stop learning. A lot of the schools and colleges that I speak at, I try and distill in the children that don't make this your last day of learning and education. Step out into the wide world and continue to learn, whether that's books, reading, and listening to people that you look up to. Even the person next to you on the bus may have a life lesson to learn from. And they say every day is a school day. So
sure. No, it's a great takeaway. That's how I try to live my life too.
Awesome. I think we're going to be friends after this. So could you tell us some tactics that our listeners you can really give us some personal tactics, either from your personal life or business, that can help them be a little more sustainable?
For sure. I think along the same vein of what we were just talking about, the number one thing I would say is get educated, learn, keep reading. There's always new developments in the world of sustainability. There's always new articles, new studies, interesting things coming out. So read and watch documentaries, listen to podcasts like this one. There's so much more you can learn. And whether your passion is, environmentalism or human trafficking, whatever it is, there's something that you can learn and something that you can share with others. So every day I'm learning, I'm taking online courses, stuff like that. That would be my first tip. And the second thing is just try and make one change every day, or if that's too much, every week. So if you're at the store and you see a product, just, ask yourself some questions in your head. Is that, have I learned anything about this product? Is this the best option for me to buy at this time? Do I need it at this time? In your home, think about what you have, what you're cooking with, what you're cleaning with. Are they safe? Are they non-toxic? Are they made sustainably? So step one is to educate, and step two is to make changes, just one baby step at a time.
Do you have any resources that we can send our listeners to?
Yeah, let's see. So because I've been really learning about fashion lately, I have been reading a lot about the fashion industry and different resources on that. So there is a great collection of sustainability resources in the fashion industry on CFDA, so CFDA.com. They have a ton of sustainability resources in the fashion industry. There's a lot of blogs that I love reading, like The Good Trade, of course, and Eco Cult. In terms of sustainability podcasts, there are, depending on what your area of interest is, there are lots of different ones you could listen to, but some interesting ones are Change Creator, Impact Marketing, Rank and File, this podcast, of course, Tiny Spark. There's lots out there. So I think it's just finding what resonates with you. And those are a couple resources to get people started that just off the top of my head. But yeah, always finding something new every day.
Do you have any tips on a sustainable product that you really love and are using right now?
Yeah, so I'm really nerding out about some new products that are being made to replace synthetics. So one example is Pila Case. So it is a biodegradable, compostable phone case that basically acts the same as a plastic or a rubber phone case, but it's completely safe. I love Primally Pure skincare. It's all natural ingredients. I'm a huge fan of that, as opposed to using toxic chemicals on my skin. And one that I just learned about a few days ago, I think is so interesting. It's called Flower Down. And this company has spent the past decade developing the product, where they're basically using dried wildflowers to make a biopolymer as the down stuffing inside of winter coats. So instead of goose down or feathers or fur or synthetic materials, they are making a totally natural biopolymer out of wildflowers. So there's so many, I think, scientists and researchers who develop this kind of stuff are incredible. There's so many really interesting things going on that people are doing and coming up with to replace synthetics. And I think that's amazing.
Awesome. So repeat those three again for me.
Right. So I said Pila Case, which is the compostable phone cases. There's Primally Pure skincare. I'm their biggest fan. And the new one I just learned about is called Flower Down, but it's spelt without any vowels in it. So just trying to be a little edgy with their branding there. But yeah, definitely look those up.
Thank you for that. And what I'll do is I'll link them out in the show notes again so people can discover them and learn more. And we're always interested in hearing your discoveries. So any listeners that have discovered some products, please let us know. We'd love to share that and share the resources together, and we can make those steps together. And so what's a brand or say another CEO that you're really looking up to and admire in the sustainability space?
So someone that comes to mind, well, it's actually the co-founders of Allbirds Shoes. Now, what I love about them is so they've been innovative materials and developing, this natural foam made of sugarcane and, a wool sneaker. But what I really love about what they do is they spent all this time doing product development, developing a recipe for a foam shoe sole out of sugarcane. And instead of keeping this as a company secret, an industry secret, they've shared this recipe. So they're really kind of embodying the principles of transparency and collaboration. We can all rise by building each other up. And I love that they haven't kept their development secret. They think it would be great if other brands copied them and replaced their shoe soles with a sugarcane version. So I think that's a lot of brands are very secretive about their processes and their supply chain. And as I said before, I think in the sustainability world, transparency is so important.
That's awesome, because I read a stat the other day that certain parts of a shoe, for example, the sole, can last over 1,000 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so like anything that we can do to replace that or to make it more sustainable, I think it's amazing if someone comes up with a solution for that, and instead of hoarding it, so it's a patent and only one company can produce it, they are sharing it so that we can actually make a change in the industry and see this become more of a widespread phenomenon.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it touched on two things that really important for me is the transparency side of things, but ultimately sustainability is about love and caring, kindness for everything around us. That's how we'll truly be sustainable, like appreciating what goes into turning something that's either natural or man-made into something else that then has to go back into the environment. So thinking about the impact that has on all of us, not just their wallets or the bank balance, So I think when we instill in kindness and love, that we start becoming a lot more sustainable.
For sure. I couldn't agree more.
Look, Deanna, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Is there any last words you want to say to our listeners? Any bit of maybe a question that you want to ask the listeners?
I think I would just ask people to take the time to reflect. I think there's a lot of shaming and eco-guilt, and there can be competition sometimes, like, we could always be doing better. There's something we can always improve. That's true. But like you just said, sustainability is, not just about the innovations, but it's also about having grace and respect and love and just appreciating where you are right now, reflecting on where you want to be, and then taking the action to make that change. So I just ask listeners to take the time to reflect today on, where they want to see themselves and the world in 1, 5, or 10 years.
I think you've been an amazing guest today. You've really shared some incredible insights. I really wish you all the best for your business, LIYA Collective. Thank you again, and have a great day. Enjoy Costa Rica. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I'd just like to thank all the listeners for tuning in today. A copy of the show notes will be found on my website, giannavelli.co.uk. Please go back and check the previous episodes. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at giannavelli, on TikTok gianna.velli. It's a great way to interact with me and listeners of the show. Remember, our aim is to put the kind back into humankind. So please share this episode with at least 2 of your friends. We've got lots more episodes in the pipeline, really big 2020. I'm really looking forward to you tuning in the future. Live what you listen. All the best. Have a great week.